We want to get more on this Apple story, and joining us right now, Martin Yang is the Oppenheimer Senior Analyst of Emerging Technology and Services. Martin, just give us, please, your first impression to these numbers and the report.
Yeah, so at first sight, the results look mixed because we're seeing consecutive quarters of year-over-year decline. But when you put this in context, when you put Apple's revenue performance roughly flat for iPhone comparing to Android, anywhere between double-digit to high single-digit decline year-over-year, Apple is still very, very strong. And also, the service story is going to be the long-term growth driver for Apple, not only contributing to higher than corporate average revenue growth rate, but also margin expansion opportunities for the very sustainable long term.
Hi, Martin. It's Julie here. Certainly, there are a lot of positives to see with Apple, whether it's services, whether it's the potential in India. I guess my question is whether all of that is already priced into a stock that's trading near a record high.
Yeah, I would argue that maybe in the near term, current multiple is closer to a peak before we see meaningful reacceleration in iPhone growth. So if we want to play the stock very tactically, maybe you don't want to buy into the stock with a very short-term holding period.
I just asked one of our reporters here about the Apple Vision Pro and the market for it. Kind of chuckles in the response because, of course, it's just in its infancy and we don't know that much about it. But I'm just wondering, is there enough buzz around it to fill the need for this one big next thing that the market and fans of the company seem to be expecting someday?
Definitely. So VR devices or any wearable devices that give you infinite amount of display area that's easy to carry with a very strong human factor has the potential to replace smartphones. But based on Vision Pro, or at least the current generation of Vision Pro, we don't see that happening anytime soon. But there's always hope that ultimately a head-worn device, a head of a display, will one day replace the smartphones in our hands.
And all of this is sort of like, again, distantly in the future. Something else maybe that'll be more distantly in the future for Apple is more of an AI integration, which Tim Cook sort of, it's a sharp contrast with some of the other tech giants that we have heard from. Is Apple just drawing from its typical playbook here where it's sitting back, letting everybody else be the first mover, and then at some point will come in with what it sees as a best-in-class product? Like, what would that even look like? What do you think the playbook is here?
Sure. When we think about adoption of machine learning techniques in a consumer product, either as a hardware device or a software device, I think the most critical piece is trust. Can you trust the AI, either AI assistant or someone who can help you in productivity tasks? I think Apple is best positioned because its hardware devices is well loved. It's known for its strong stance on user privacy. So when it comes to trust, when it comes to consumer relationships, Apple is absolutely best positioned to put AI consumer AI product into hundreds of millions, if not billions, of users.
Martin, it is Jobs Day. We've been talking about Apple specifically earlier. Brian Sozzi was on talking about the Apple headcount. It's basically doubled from 2013 to last year's numbers in their 10K to, 164,000, excuse me. And we're not going to get the current year numbers until another quarter. But just any talk on the call around cost cutting, pressures there with respect to wage growth, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. As according to the CFO, they have slowed down hiring, and you definitely see the growth year over year on OPEX declining very consistently in the past 4 quarters. And comparing to other larger tech firms, Apple has not announced any large-scale layoffs. I think that speaks to, number one, the very durable profitability of Apple, and number two, how Apple is maintaining its a very strong grasp on OPEX discipline.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, you see the likes of an Amazon talk about expense management and the market falls all over itself, but Apple making sort of similar comments and not seeing a similar reaction, I guess because investors are more accustomed to Apple being more disciplined on that front, right? Do you think that there's anything, though, more that Apple needs to do on the expense management side, given that it looks like demand is moderating?
So to the first point, I don't think any investors, I haven't come across many investors who are criticizing Apple for undisciplined spending, either in headcount or in tech that are not necessary. And Apple has never spent large sums in acquisitions. So going forward, I think with a scaled back hiring, that's enough. And Apple will continue to invest very heavily in innovation and future technologies. So I don't think there's a lot of investor pushbacks on Apple's approach to OpEx management.
Martin, finally, I want to ask you about the iPhone 15. And, obviously, if you look at Apple's revenue forecast, it implies that it could continue to see declines. But do you think the 15 is going to be a big product for them?
Yeah, I think iPhone 15 can be a very can itself be a milestone product because it's expected to have a USB-C port instead of Lightning. So I think that can drive incremental switchers as well as early replacers to get higher-end iPhone 15. And also iPhone 15, based on what we know, will have very unique features like using precious metal like titanium on the high-end models that will also help to push the overall ASP higher for iPhone. The one of the bigger and maybe underappreciated story for iPhone in the past few quarters is that even though overall iPhone shipment has declined, iPhone revenues has stayed stable because Apple has the pricing power. It is able to push more consumers to buy the higher-end models. And that pricing power sustained, in my opinion, for iPhone 15 generation.
Martin, thank you so much. Martin Yang, Oppenheimer Senior Analyst of Emerging Technologies and Services. Good to get your perspective this morning.